Hi everyone, and welcome back to the 300 bird challenge. We want to fill that circle and make it all white coloured before the end of the year by seeing 300 different bird species. In this episode, it's the beginning of February, the birding is going to get a little bit harder, nothing new is turning up, and we've already seen a lot of species, so we're going to be kind of running around the province a little bit. But to start with, we're going to show you the world's fastest animal. You want to see it? Yeah, you do. Back in a second. Good morning everyone, we're going to start this video in the Don Valley area. I'm going to show you a Peregrine Falcon. It's a new bird for the year. This morning, otherwise, has been a bit of a bust. We went to Ashbridges Bay and a couple of other spots on the hunt for a gull that wasn't there anymore, so that's why we've come to look at the Peregrine Falcon. Anyway, just a quick look at that guy. As I said, this Peregrine Falcon's a new species for our bird challenge. This species is a large-sized falcon with barring across the underside and a black helmeted kind of look. It reminds me of old-fashioned fighter pilots with their leather helmet and goggles, like Biggles used to wear. Peregrines eat a variety of prey, which means that they can be found throughout much of the world and in numerous habitats, including, like this fella, on large tower blocks, as well as bridges and other urban constructions, since the edifice of these buildings acts pretty much like a cliff face for the bird. A lot of their prey is other unfortunate birds, and they're adept at hunting them in flight. They perform vertical dives towards their victim, dives that are called stoops, and they can reach around 200 miles an hour, or about 320 kilometers per hour. This makes them the fastest animal on the planet. This bird is one of several known peregrines in the city of Toronto that are banded and monitored because of historical population declines, primarily due to chemical use like DDT. So I'd like to introduce you. His name is Canuck, and he's nested in this area for years. Unfortunately, his partner was killed late last year from a wing injury, and he also lost one of his offspring. But it does appear that good news is on the horizon. Another female has been seen hanging around. Now, mating season begins around late March, so there are high hopes for these birds to continue Canuck's legacy in the area. Okay, welcome back. It's now Sunday morning. Sara, where are we?
Colonel Sam Smith.
We've come here because there's been reports of both an Iceland gull and
an eared grebe, which we saw at the end of last year, and we've tried a couple of times to see it again this year to get it on our account without success. Maybe we can find it today. Let's go find out. It's out in the lake. It was a very frosty but pretty morning when we arrived at Sam Smith Park. Despite the marina being frozen over, it does still continue to be an unseasonably warm winter in southern Ontario. This unusually mild weather is affecting our birding to some degree, something I'll talk about in my next longer video where we hope to go looking for a certain winter bird we haven't seen yet. We looked out over a bay near Wimbrel Point and immediately saw a grebe, but it was really far away, and the footage is poor. Well, excuse the pun, but we're gonna have to dive into this. While I roll the footage a few times, here's some background on a very tricky identification. A horned grebe is quite common around here. An eared grebe, which is what we're hoping for, is quite rare. Both horned and eared grebes look very similar in their winter plumage, especially when they're this far away. I also got a photo, so let's take a look at that. There was a birder couple standing with us with a scope. One of them was really confident that this was the rarer eared grebe, but I felt pretty uneasy about that. Look, here's what I think. I think that this is the more common horned grebe, because an eared grebe generally will have its rear end raised higher out of the water, and this bird doesn't appear to be doing that. The beak on an eared grebe is generally slightly upturned, and this one appears to have a straight beak, although it is a slightly awkward angle that the bird's head is facing. Lastly, the head shape on an eared grebe has a kind of peak to it. This bird has a fairly round head, although again, slightly awkward angle. Anyway, I've spoken to 3 other birders who are informed with this particular species. They also believe with some certainty that this is a horned grebe. Too bad, it's not the rare eared grebe. Too bad, we've also already seen a horned grebe. This bird doesn't count. Okay, phew, moving on to the Iceland gull. This one's got to be easier, right? Amongst these gulls, our attention was drawn to this individual. Note the larger size, the pink legs and that red marking on the beak. It's then a case of figuring out, okay, am I looking at a herring gull here or an Iceland gull? The Iceland gull is, how can I put this, just a bit more, a bit more pretty, a bit more refined looking than a herring gull. It lacks the black primary feathers that a herring gull has normally, but not always. There is a subspecies called the Thayer's Iceland gull, which does have some black primaries. I'm going herring gull on this bird though. It's probably too large to be an Iceland gull, and an Iceland gull has a thinner, relatively speaking, daintier beak. Oh dear, another miss. We did see a common loon out on the lake, and we also saw a downy woodpecker near to North Creek. One new bird that we definitely did see was a red-necked grebe, so that's a new one for our counter. At least we've come away with something definite. We're going to move on now because it's fairly quiet here at Sam Smith Park. We have a lead on possibly a couple of species. We're kind of crazy, it's far away, about a 2-hour drive, but we're going to do it anyway. We'll see you guys soon as we drive towards Peterborough. This squirrel thinks it's a skunk with its white bit at the end of its tail. We drove away from Sam Smith Park and, via a quick coffee break of course, navigated our way across the city towards the more rural highways of Peterborough. You know how in the game show Family Fortunes when someone gets the answer wrong there's that sound effect? Well, that basically applies to the rest of our trip. It's why this video is a bit shorter. At Lakefield Sewage Lagoons there was word of Bohemian waxwings. That would be a lifer for us, and also a northern shrike. That would be, you get the idea, a lifer for us. We also suspected we might find a pileated woodpecker, but we saw absolutely nothing apart from the odd chickadee, so we left. At Jackson Creek Park we certainly saw signs of pileated woodpecker activity, those telltale oval tree cavities, but we couldn't get very far because the paths were treacherous. The snow had melted and refrozen as surface ice. On the Trans-Canada Trail, not far from Technology Drive, we finally heard the woody woodpecker call of a pileated woodpecker, but we just couldn't find it anywhere, just more chickadees. Finally, we drove past some good habitat south of the airport, and again we saw signs of activity, but it was a bust. 4 locations, none of them worked out for us. Started driving back south towards Toronto, wondering how the hell am I going to make a video out of all of this, and questioning my life choices, and thought, should I have just made a YouTube channel about train spotting? At least trains keep to a schedule. We decided to stop in Durham following reports of a ruddy duck. No dice! But we did see a few common species. Suddenly, as if to give me some sort of narrative thread for this video, do you remember that common horned grebe from earlier? Another one popped up. Look at me, at least you can get a nice close-up look at me. There's a nice circular narrative for your video, Stu and Sara. Otherwise, that was it. That's it for this video. A little bit shorter than usual, and we appreciate your patience with a video that didn't quite work out the way we would have liked, but stay tuned to the channel. We do have quite a good trip coming up next week. Looking forward to that. I'm going to save the surprise until that video is released. It may be a couple of weeks from now as you watch this video. It's just going to take me a while to edit that one because I think it'll be quite a lot of footage. So stay tuned to the channel. See you in a couple of weeks. Thanks for watching. Happy birding. See you soon.